I'm Chip Townsend, and this is the Team Chip Podcast. We're back for another round. I have, again, with me the amazing Miss Glenn Ann, my wife, for a very long time. Long time, right?
Almost 33 years.
Banging away. It's good stuff. Long time. We are here to talk today a little bit about the idea of kind of protecting your kids, like protecting childhood a little bit, and how martial arts can help kind of guard kids against the distractions of the world, right? And how it can contribute to their life in a way that counters that distraction, right? Something like that.
For sure.
So how are you today?
I'm good.
You good? You ready to get rocking with this set?
I am. Let's
Very
do it.
good. So distractions. What kind of distractions do we have in the world? Just talk about that real quick. What are we talking about here?
Oh my goodness. So many.
Where do I start?
You just asked me to pick one flavor out of 31. So no, no, there's lots. I think the biggest one for the
older people listening, they understood that was, maybe a throw at Baskin Robbins there. But
that's right.
For a lot of people, they're like, what's she talking about? 31. What?
Yeah, only 31. So I think probably one of the biggest ones is just that distraction of screens, of, just being mindless, having to be entertained constantly, having to be, the B word, I'm bored, You want
to know the old school fix for that? My mama kept an old toothbrush. Like, oh, you're bored? You can scrub the potty and the baseboards, and I'll give you a project in the bathroom in there so you don't have to be bored, son. As a matter of fact, bored was like
a
foul,
dirty word.
Yeah, foul language in my home.
Yeah, it was like...
I think I said bored a couple of times, and I got hammered, and it was like, I will not be bored, because the response to that was find a way to entertain yourself or to do something, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And today, that's like, here, have my phone. or better yet, 6-year-old, get your own phone out.
Oh, snap.
I know. Sorry.
Yes.
I'm sorry, guys. Just mind-boggling what we're doing to our kids these days with screens and distractions, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny because we were, a while back, we did this, and this was actually at least 5 years ago. We did not collaborative, but we were at an event where there was someone from the police department there and it was specifically talking about safety with kids.
Right.
And there was a police officer there that was talking about things that cases he was specifically working on right now.
Right.
And one of them was, we're investigating it's an app, it's a game that kids play, but there are people that have gotten into it or that was created that way. I don't remember that piece of it, but that they've gotten into it, and it's a way that you can chat, and it's adults with kids, and
right.
It's it looks like this innocent little dress the pony. I don't remember anything specific about it, but
right.
It was like these are they're and one of the questions that one of the parents said is, well, at what age do you think that it's appropriate for a kid to have a phone? And he said, never. No kid should have a phone. And it was kind of like mic drop, and that's all. Never. They don't need a phone. Kids don't need phones. We didn't have phones. They'll be fine. They don't need to. They need to message you at school. They're at school.
I think, and none of this is intended to just be blatantly offensive to anybody, but
Not at all.
A lot of the parents today grew up with phones. Like we were just prior to phones and kind of saw the the development of cell phones and car phones.
I remember the first iPhone.
Right. And in 2007, those first iPhones, because I was just talking to someone a couple of days about how I remember thinking, that's nuts.
Who's going to want that?
This little screen in your pocket?
I can watch TV.
Anyway, and at the time, if I remember correctly, a lot of the promotion around it was like the iPod was popular, where you have all your music on your iPod, right?
Right.
Which was cool. Yeah, right. You can get all your music. You don't have to have a disc or a cassette tape. And then it was like your phone and your iPod in one.
And I just thought, I was like, I'll stay with my Razor. You can do that. Right. I had a Razor.
Like, what the heck? So who knew? So anyway, the point is a lot of the parents, if you're a parent listening to this and of the kind of current parenting generation, you probably grew up with a phone.
That's right.
you may not know what it was like. For me, living in the country, I truly had a stick that had about a double grip handle length, and it kind of had a little curve like a samurai sword, and it was tough as a boot. I used to whack trees with that thing, and I ran around the house and had imaginary battles with it all the time. I had that thing for years. I'm really sad I don't still have it. It got left in the pasture somewhere. But, entertaining yourself and using your imagination instead of all that being done for us. So anyway.
And just, the studies that have been done that show the absolute decline in actual play and how much is actually developed in that. Like we know that, this is no new discovery, that crawling develops little connections in your brain. You need to figure out that 1, 2, 3, 4, and that interacting
left and right,
with it.
hands and feet.
Absolutely. And then pedaling a bike and all of those little things.
Physical things.
Not things.
Look at a screen.
Because it's that being able to interact with your world, not interact with, because you just, there is no interaction with the screen. And so then that trickles over into young adults, teens,
Zero emotional intelligence.
that can't pick up on
social cues.
Like that just, they hear something and they go, yeah, that must be true. They said, and instead of going, the discernment is just out the window. Yeah.
Right. Well, I just feel highly compelled right here to throw down a stake and say, if you're a martial arts school instructor or owner, you should be pumped, beyond pumped about this.
Right.
Because we have an unbelievable platform with martial arts to counter this problem, right? Because you said play, and a lot of people, I don't know today's world, but whenever my parents would have heard that and not play, you need no play, need to get to work, boy, right? But play, right? So one of the things that we push heavily in our school with our kids that are learning combat, the combat piece, what we do is I ask them, I say, look, the combative piece should be fun.
That's right.
It should be like playing. And let me explain. How does one of the most well-known, powerful, God-made killers in the world kill? It's the lion, right? The king of the jungle.
Right.
They learn playing with their siblings on
cubs.
the savannah. They're rolling around, biting each other's faces and necks, and it's fun. It's play. Their play would probably hurt me. It'd be rough, right? But that's okay. But play should be a little rough and tumble, because rough and tumble movement develops bone density and strength and joint strength and all of these things that can be missing. I get really passionate about this. So martial arts school owners, you should be pumped to be hearing this. Like, let me get these kids off screens. And by the way, Miss Olivia that helps us with our podcast was telling us today, she did a little research. She said 7 to 12 years old kids are today averaging on screens 5.5 hours a day. That's almost a full-time job's worth of daytime.
Well,
right?
You figure 5.5 hours a day. Well, they sleep for actually needed.
According
10.
to the book Nurture Shock, which you should all read, there's a lost hour in the sleep zone too because of screens, right?
Right. Right. And then, so you figure 15 hours a day. Well, there's 9 hours. What are they doing in those other, 9?
Right.
You're just.
Right. So, but just think, guys, 5 hours, when I first saw, and then from 13 to 18, it's 7 hours and 22 minutes a day on average that a kid is on a screen.
Wow.
And I get, maybe they're counting the screen, the Promethean board at school, or the some learning, computer time for school. I understand, but that's still a screen.
Right.
It's still a distraction. And when a kid is interacting with the screen, they're not reading facial expressions and understanding body language and gestures. So much is getting cut out of their life. And if you're hearing us, please don't think that we don't love technology, because I'm using it right now.
Absolutely.
Got a big screen right here, so I get it, but man, moderation. So anyway, as a martial arts school owner and instructor, you should be pumped. How do we attack this? And I'll give you one thing now. We've talked about it in the podcast. We have a no phone zone in our school. Like in our lobby, And really, at any of the seating areas, I'll walk by sometimes and be like, hey, you're supposed to be on a phone if there's a little kid. The problem is a lot of times it's another sibling that doesn't engage with us that's sitting there checked out. Just the other day, I was walking through, and there's like probably about a 16, 17-year-old brother that's been coming in lately. I don't know which of the students he's with, but he literally sits like this the entire time he's in the school. And I'm just kind of mind boggled by that. But anyway,
Yeah.
I digress. But as martial arts school owners, we should be pumped that we have one of the tools to combat this issue right here.
Absolutely. And one of the ways that I think that, we have a captive audience for 45 minutes to an hour, depending on your class time. And during that time, building their absolute focus. I mean, think about movies now. Movies if you watch newer movies, they change the screen view. Right. You may be in the same scene, but they change the screen view like every 3 seconds. But it's because we have less attention span than a goldfish. And
that's scientifically proven.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. And so whenever you are, now I'm getting a class for 45 minutes. They're focused on one thing. The screen isn't moving.
And the screen is not it. Right.
It's there. Yeah. And so that's such a powerful, powerful time and such a powerful lesson. And so that's actually one of the reasons, the reason that we ask people to not be on phones. It's not just to be difficult or try to, whatever. It's that I want you to see what your kids are doing, and you miss that whenever you're on the phone.
From the parent perspective, sitting along the sideline, like, get off the phone and pay attention to your kid just for a few minutes.
Yeah.
There is nothing like, and I know this because my first, I was 14 when I started, so my first couple of years before I was driving myself there, my parents were at every class. My mom was really. My dad was working, but my mom was at every class. And there was nothing like walking out the door and mom having that occasion where she goes, man, you did good today. I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
And that was just like, boom, life is good right now.
That's right.
And when you're on your phone at the sideline, it's just not happening. So instructors and school owners, man, we should be pumped about this. So how in martial arts can we, help kids build connections and self-discipline? I think it's almost self-explanatory, and you've touched on it a little bit.
Yep.
45 minutes or an hour at a time, the phone has to go to the side. We're not going to allow it on the mat. And so let's talk a little bit about that. How can we build connections and help those kids to get off the dependency of screens?
Are you talking about just on the mat or?
Well, just as martial arts school owners, how we provide them the mat, we give them the structure, we put them in a uniform.
Right.
We do things like parents' night out where we have the kids come in, no phones, but they engage and do activities together. They do classes together. They're partnering face to face with a partner to do their self-defenses and their one-step sparring and their actual sparring and all grappling and all these things where they're building connections. We just have such an amazing set of tools to, again, combat this issue of kids being so distracted by their screens. So that's kind of what I was talking about. And also family atmosphere. So just kind of speaking to that.
So you're also developing friendships that are face-to-face friendships. They're not, whenever you have a screen and especially if it's like on social media, you start... there start being people that you're following, that you're listening to, and they almost kind of falsely think that they're your friend, but they don't know you. Or you have a quote friend on Facebook, and then you're looking for those likes and you're looking for that just a false sense of accomplishment, a false sense of praise instead of getting that person to person high five. A high five is so much more than just I got a heart.
Yeah. Well, physical contact, I don't know the stats on it or anything, but nurturing, holding a baby, holding a child, kind of touching them. I know that. Don't be a freak and think I mean something weird, but a high five, a pat on the back, a pat on the head.
Knuckle bump, but whatever.
Knuckle bumps. Those things are so dang important for kids, right?
Absolutely.
And when they're on a screen, they're just not getting it. And in the martial arts world, it's a constant. We're going to bow, we're going to high five, we're going to knuckle bump, we're going to do boom.
Well, that's been like, think about like a baby, when a baby is born, they want that. even if a baby is very, very sick whenever they're born, they don't want to prolong that immediate touch, skin to skin touch.
Yeah,
You know, there's
yeah.
we know that for babies, but it doesn't stop there. And putting a glass and metal plastic device in your hand does not take the place of that.
It does not. It does not. And I think something else that we kind of lean into just a little bit here is, you know, the idea of kind of instant gratification, satisfaction. Like, you know, and I know as a parent, it's tough. You know, I don't think, I'm going to say something here that may rock boats a little bit, but I don't think I've ever been somewhere with my kids that they acted a fool that I was embarrassed. I'm going to say that again. I don't think I've ever been in any public setting anywhere, church, the highest level events we've been to, that my kid acted a fool and I was embarrassed. I just don't get embarrassed about those things.
Yeah,
and I think that can be problematic. Does that make sense? Like, I know it can, because I've heard the comments, oh, it's just so embarrassing when my child acts up whenever, blah, blah, blah. Well, there's a vicious circle going on. Your child's acting up because they're holding a phone, because they need instant gratification, because there are no discipline and boundaries and expectations. Right. Does that make sense? So, instant, you know, well, this back to this embarrassment issue, you know, my point is if your kid is kind of throwing a fit or wanting something that they don't need, sometimes it's just easy to go, here, play this little game for a minute.
Yeah.
Right. Does that mean, that's kind of where I was going with that, and might not have gotten there directly, but we found our way there.
Yeah,
right.
An electronic pacifier.
Yeah. And it becomes instant gratification. That was where I was going with that. Like, here, just be happy. Take this. I don't want to be embarrassed because you're embarrassing me in front of all these people. When 90% of those people go, I got kids. I've been there. No big deal to me, right?
Yeah.
But in your head, you've got this like, oh, goodness, poor, pitiful me. No, not poor, pitiful you. Take care of your kid, man.
Right.
People are graceful with that. People will get it. So,
for sure.
Yeah. So, and on the mat, you know, how do we overcome instant gratification? Setting goals, earn your stripes, earn your belts, earn that award. Did you fight for first, second, and third place? Because we don't do participation places.
And celebrating the repetition. You know, we do really try to hide repetition,
Right.
to kind of instill the need for it, because we know, you know, repetition is the mother of skill. You have to do things over and over and over to actually get good at them.
Can I say?
And we do try to hide it, for sure. But there is also just a need for it, and anything you want to be good at, you have to practice. And so just
100%.
developing that's a skill.
Well, that's a good segue into the thought of building resilience too. But what I was going to say is, you said, you know, practice is, you know, repetition is the mother of skill, and that is true. I've for several years add the idea that quality repetition.
Absolutely.
This is where the martial arts instructor becomes pricelessly important.
Right.
When he can step in and, I'll use the word coach, but kind of coach someone through something or inspire them through his actions, right, and help them.
Yeah, it's beyond just, and not just to use a term that I think people will understand, but it's not just a workout of the day where you kind of come in and you do your own thing and you just follow along this thing that's written out. But it's, no, I'm going to actually, this is what we're doing, and then I'm going to guide you in improving that, like just adjust this, adjust that, make little tweaks to make it. And it's that physical interaction.
Absolutely. And, you know, back to the idea of resilience, every time my child, or, you know, just think in terms of a martial arts instructor, if we did this, I hope no martial arts instructors doing this would hand them an iPad or a phone because they're a little unhappy about what happened in that set on the floor, you know, doing martial arts. They don't have that to lean on when they're on the floor, when they're on, you know, that pad to, let me get distracted and get happy here for a minute. So you're building resilience because they're having to work through things, work through things, right?
Right.
And resilience is so important in our world today. It's just something that's, I feel like, is lacking more all the time. The wherewithal to buckle down and just grit your teeth and get through something so you can get to the other side. It's just so important. And again, I get really passionate about this subject because I think that we just have such a powerful tool in the martial arts world, in the mat, to counter the problems of screen time.
Yeah, and I think, you know, we haven't really even touched on, and I don't want to get camped here for too long, but I think, you know, just the the idea that screens and specifically social media, really you're comparing your behind the scenes to whoever posted whatever their highlight reel. There nobody posts their and even the hashtag real life nonsense is curated. And whenever you know, as adults we understand that, but the kids don't. And so then there's that, well, they have this or they have that, and you're just breeding in them a sense of inadequacy and I don't have enough, or and man, discontent, and that's not where we want to go. You know, recently we were at a little restaurant. It was evening, and we're sitting there about to eat supper, and we're looking around, and every single table has every single person at every table heads down looking at a phone. Right. They're sitting across from each other, and we were just kind of like, whoa, do you see this? Do you see this? And, you know, this is in a little small community, and it was one of those.
I remember it was you, me, Trinity, and Slade, so it was the four of us, and they're 15 and 17 at the time. But
right. And they had, you know, they have phones. They do. And it was like, this is nuts. So we pulled out our phone, but our phone, one single. And do y'all remember that game Heads Up? And
that game's a blast. If you haven't played it, look up Heads Up. It's a fun little game for your family.
And so this is the flip side. Technology can be cool. It can be just fine. But it doesn't have to be this all-consuming, everybody's glued in their own little world. It's like basically everybody's sitting at a table reading their own book, you know, like, and looking at other people's photo albums. But anyway, and so our waitress actually came up and was like, hey, I remember that game. I haven't done that in forever. What was that called? Yeah. Because we are having a blast, and people start, and we start.
The whole
seeing
restaurant starts kind of looking at us like, what are they doing over there?
There's actually people laughing, and they actually are interacting with each other. So, you know,
we're not anti-technology.
Yeah, that's the flip side. But I think, you know, you have to be the adult in the room, you know, and realize, and by that, I mean, you also have to step out and look at yourself. If you're, you know, we talked about the 3-second movies. If you're watching a movie and you find yourself like in the middle of the movie, it's kind of a lull and you're checking your phone. It's a gross thing. And you kind of have to go, good grief, I'm less than a goldfish. Okay, I've got focus here. This is enough.
Then you start counting 1,000, 2,000. That's all the focus I got.
Yeah, and you have to self-evaluation is hard, but goodness, it's so good.
Check up from the neck up.
Yes, to realize, man, I am doing that, and and be honest with your
and own it.
Yeah, and own it, and not just like but. Because, well, but, and we all have a tendency to do that.
My pops used to talk about excuses and butts. Everybody's got a butt.
Yeah.
Kind of like everybody's got an excuse. So back to resilience real quick, just to kind of touch on that one more time. I want to encourage parents a little bit here too. If your kids are in martial arts or soccer or football or baseball or any other sport, whatever it is, and you're sitting on the sidelines and your kid's having a struggle, don't beat them down about it. Be firm, be encouraging, be loving with them. But how do you help them build resilience in there? Tell them stories of when you failed. Tell them stories of when you had struggles. Tell them what you learned from that. Help them to understand the why that is so important for them to go through too. I just think that's monster. And, you know, instead of turning on the instructor or the coach or whoever that is and walking your kid out the door, I'll never forget this. I think I've told this story before in here, but I had a kid one time. He was a bit of a troubled kid before he came to us. The parents came because they couldn't put him in anything else. We took him. He was a bit of a mess. We worked with him for a long time. He ended up earning his black belt and becoming a fantastic kid. But one day in that process, I'll never forget, very commonly nannies would bring him and drop him off. It was a family was in a good place and financially. And so they nanny would bring him, drop him, pick him up. And the parents weren't there a whole lot. So one day the parent was there and the kid had a tough class and I was having to be kind of tough with the kid to get him through that class, to get him to a goal, there was a purpose behind it. I'll never forget this. I walked into the lobby as they were walking through leaving And I heard the mom look at the little guy and say, "Oh, Mr. Chip was just so hard on you today. I'm going to take you and get you some ice cream." And as they went out the door, I thought, oh my God, I just spent an hour working intentionally with this kid to help this kid. And at the time, I was so inexperienced as an instructor, I should have grabbed that parent and said, "Hey, can we talk for a minute?
Right.
Can we talk about this? Can I help you understand what's going on here?" And the kid stayed with us for years. It wasn't a problem, but I ended up having to battle to regain that kid's respect and rebuild that boundary again the next time, and it was tough. So parents, if you're listening, step alongside the coach, the instructor, try to understand the perspective of what's going on. And this is about building resilience in your kids. They're so used to the instantness of the screen and the instant little happy and satisfaction they get from playing on that thing. Let them go through the struggle. If you don't understand what happened, if you walked in halfway through a conversation, just politely ask after class, "Can I talk to you for a minute? Can you help me understand what was happening in there?" Instead of coming in with the assumption that someone treated your kid wrong and trying to just be, because I've been through this hundreds of times. You come off to me like, "You are blah, blah, my kid." And I go, "Did you know your kid said A, B, and C and did A, B, and C before you walked in?" And this was... And I've had parents eating crow so many times because they go, oh, and they shrink.
"Oh, they didn't tell me that part.
They didn't tell me that part, or I didn't catch that." Well, just ask next time. Just ask next time. But that's how parents, you help your kids build resilience. You don't just jump on their bandwagon, right? We had a kid quit recently, boggled my mind, 7 years old, and the parent for a year had not been in class. The child had been in class 20 times in 15 weeks, which is not even close to enough. And they quit because the kid was telling the parent every day, "I didn't learn anything new." You didn't learn anything new because, number one, you weren't here enough and you couldn't remember what you'd been shown the last time because it had been so long since you'd been here.
Every class
and
was
two,
a refresher.
You jumped on the wagon of your 7-year-old? Like, there may be a little truth to that, but at least come ask us before you just quit and walk out the door over it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, let us help you to understand. So anyway, back to resilience. I get defending your children, but man, your children can be farts. My kids are farts every dang day, right? And I have to have some wisdom to understand, okay, they earned that and they're going to enjoy that pain. Or, there may be a time to step in, but come on, back up a little bit and educate yourself about the situation, understand what's going on, and ask questions before you get pissed off at the world.
Yeah. And I think a piece of that is that if you're sitting out in the car on your phone, you've missed all of it.
Oh, wait a minute. You mean the parents weren't in there because they were out there on their phone? Yeah. A lot of times parents we have found in our school are sitting in their cars and you walk around the parking lot and it's countless faces lit up by a screen and you're going, "Man, you can come inside, but we would probably ask you to minimize your phone time." Right? So it's an interesting conundrum we find ourselves in. But martial arts instructors and owners, man, you should be pumped about the opportunity that we have in front of us right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the statistics on the employability, is that a word? Did I just make that up? Of people that have high emotional intelligence is just, it's becoming so rare. And just the ability for people to be able to pick up on situations, to understand what's going on, to read facial expressions, to read body language, all of that's developed on the mat is absolutely, those are priceless, transferable.
Yeah, transferable.
Copy paste.
Bam. Same word, same time. I was just saying priceless transferable skills for the rest of their life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Step up along that coach and instructor side and understand what's going on before you make a knee-jerk decision that your kid will pay a price for the rest of their life, right?
Absolutely.
All right, so it's been a great talk, a lot of good nuggets. We tend to get a little segued sometimes, I think, because I know for me, I'm just super passionate about this stuff.
Absolutely, and we're also the other side of it is we're also bringing in so many years of experiences and so many years of anecdotes, and it is hard to whittle it into one and not get off on a rabbit trail.
It is. Okay, so let's kind of rehash a little bit. Martial arts allows us the kids to build real connections and build real relationships, and
face to face.
Martial arts allows the development of self-discipline in a healthy fashion, in a healthy way. And I'm going to say, I'm partial to martial arts, but any sport coached and ran well, any physical activity could do the same, right? So, but martial arts is really good at this stuff when it's taught and done well. And then it's building resilience. It's just so important in building resilience in kids and helping them to understand, goals. Many times I have found in life, and there's a place for everybody. There's a place for a manager and there's a place for a leader, and they're two totally different things. And, the mat in martial arts helps us, I think, to build people towards kind of a leadership mindset a little bit, in that we help them to see the big picture because we have goals that are tangible. They know what they have to do to reach out and get them. And we try to help them to see out there to those things, right? And help them to grow that ability to back away and have some vision and not get tunnel vision. And I think that's really, really powerful. So anyway, protect their childhood by protecting them from distractions. And we really leaned heavy into probably the biggest distraction there is today. It's that 5.5 hours to 7.5 hours a day of screen time that's murdering our kids' development. And then the last thing I'll say, and you can chime in on this, but obesity is an epidemic. Mm-hmm. And the number of obese children today is really, 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 really sad. ADD, ADHD, a lot of development things. And a lot of this is not directly caused by, but is linked to and exacerbated by that screen time, the way it's affecting their ability to sleep. God made those little bodies to need rest and to sleep. And if they're not getting enough sleep, where their little brains acting and connecting the dots of the day that they just went through, and they're getting that time for their bodies to develop, screen time's taken away from that. Those distractions are taking away from what God intended them to have to be a healthy, functioning human being and adult. So just, encourage you guys to get on top of that and let's watch those distractions. You got any closing thoughts for us?
Oh, no, I think you nailed it.
Well, thank you. Can we jot that down? Thank God we have it recorded, because I haven't heard that in like 31 years now since I heard something like that. So.
Whatever.
All right, guys. Babe, thanks for jumping on. Absolutely. I love having you here. This is the best. You guys, hope you enjoyed it. Like it, love it, share it, message us, let us know what you'd like to hear about. And we'll continue to try to share something that hopefully is an asset and pours into your life, not takes away from it. We'll see you next time.